Welcome to AlphaCars. My name is Dimitri. I'm here with Ian, and we're gonna show you a little bit more. This is part two of the 1997 W210 E420. Very, very special car. And Ian had an awesome coverage already. We're gonna take it a step further. We're gonna drive the car, and we're gonna dive into some of the areas that make this car so affordable, because this is going to be under $10,000. Just think of it, reasonable mileage, impeccable ownership and service history, a massive, super reliable, track-proven, reliability track-proven. I'm sure some of these were on the racetracks too, but an awesome V8 engine, and yeah, phenomenal foundation for a good, solid German V8 powered sedan to get under $10,000, start driving, having fun, and you can turnkey a few things. We're gonna show you what those are. But let's walk around the exterior of the vehicle. And as Ian showed you, it's in a great presentable condition. We're gonna point out, you can actually, under some lighting you can see it more, and some lighting you would see it less. But you probably noticed in the images for this vehicle, there's a color difference here. The car had some collision repairs. Nothing was structural, but there was some refinishing work around the vehicle. And there's some color, this is actually a mismatched color. I'm not sure if the camera shows that, but there's a mismatch here. And equally on this other side, let's take a look. Again, it's a great solid finish, but it was just refinished in two different instances, so there's a mismatch there. And by the way, this can be blended. We're just trying to keep the vehicle, not trying, we are keeping it under $10,000. It's an awesome car, but this can be certainly easily blended by doing the base coat and clear coat on these two doors and those other two doors. And depending on the body shop, the cost would vary, but it's very, very durable, affordable. Now, as we walk around the vehicle, again, it's super presentable, and Ian showed some of the imperfections now around the rims and around the bumpers. Now, as we go around the vehicle, it definitely had, we know it had a repair in the on the rear end, and they did a very good job. Could the refinishing be done better? Absolutely. But again, for the age of the vehicle, this is very, very good, and I think with proper maintenance, it would last a long time too. We also aware of the underbody. As usual, this car is from the East Coast. It spent most of the time actually in Washington, D.C., and it was driven to us here to AlphaCars in Massachusetts from Washington, D.C. Previous owner drove the car, and he's very appreciative that we decided to bring it to AlphaCars.com and offer this car. We made some improvements, some cosmetic improvements, and there's still work to do. As we get inside the vehicle, and we're going to get in there because we're going to drive it, we're going to show you how awesome this is, how rewarding it is to be in the vehicle and drive the car. But there are some minor, did we cover those? Yeah, so we covered those. You can see that usually from the seat belts. When you go to close the vehicle, to close the door, you need to give it a little bit more than you would expect from a Mercedes door, like this door. And if I do this, it just requires a little bit more. Usually you wouldn't hear it from a selling dealer, but we are all about transparency. This is not a big deal, and we can get in, make some adjustments, make it better. Again, we're just trying to keep the cost under $10,000 because it's an amazing value, and there is nothing fundamentally wrong with this vehicle. In fact, it's a very, very awesome vehicle. I'll show you some other imperfections. We can look over here, and this maybe was already covered by Ian, but you can see these are things we try to avoid when we do the refinishing work. We would remove everything. Here it was obviously taped, and you can see little tape lines. Again, good quality finish. but it would take several hours to properly remove that. That has not been done, but it held up for years. That actually is a very, very good sign. All this body work was done years ago. And you probably saw it on some of the images on our website. If you look at the, if you look at these gaskets, you can see there's overspray there. You can see overspray there. All that can be cleaned off, and it really should be cleaned off. But again, with just full disclosure, you can see it right there. And there's more over on this side. You can see this gasket here is all black, and there's a little bit of overspray. Again, given the age of this vehicle and the price point, it's reasonable. And please don't turn the page on this car, because it's an awesome car. We're just full disclosure. We're going to tell you everything, but there's nothing really loose or super concerning. The car drives phenomenal. So let's go in the vehicle. We are going to invite Ian with his camera equipment. Hi, Ian.
Hello. Very comfortable car.
Yeah.
You get in the interior, and I know I covered this in my video a little bit, but all the interior finishes and the trims, it's amazing.
Yeah, and even the wood around here, I know that's been covered. I love this real leather on that would have to be an E420 to get that kind of door trim, because this is actually leather. There are some areas, there was some surface rust here that's been cleaned, primed, and touch-up paint, but the bottom of the door is actually original and looks very, very good. Yeah, very comfortable seat, typical Mercedes ergonomic seat, and all the switches are nice and tight everywhere, and things kind of like everything is crisp. I love the original, it looks like not only the seat contours, but even the steering wheel looks like a half of the steering wheel, suggesting that this is the steering wheel, and you can move it up and down, in and out, and then you can assign it to a certain memory setting. So I think everything works on the interior. There was really no disclosures here. This all works. The remote keys work great. This has the infrared system, which is the infrared sensors are in each door, in the trunk, and even in the mirror for when you're up front. And it's interesting, everybody thinks they stopped making it, but they use it as a backup system for the G-Class, because Mercedes G-Class, their flagship, it has the radio control remote keys, and they use the infrared as a backup also. So that one has the sensor just in the door. So in the G-Class, when you have a situation where key doesn't work from the distance but work up close, that means it's in the backup mode. Look at the radius of turning. This is another unbelievable feature. It looks like, here's the center of the car, and it looks like we're just spinning.
It's like we're pivoting.
We're pivoting around the center of the car. And one of the contributing factors to that is that this is not an all-wheel drive model, so it's a fun car to drive. You can actually have a lot of fun with this car. But because it doesn't have front wheel drive shaft or front wheels, Mercedes can turn those wheels even a little bit more. So that's why this is even better than the 4MATIC version when it comes to radius of turning, and those are super impressive too. So let's get this on the road.
As a passenger, you wouldn't know the engine's running.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah, everybody says the Lexus is so smooth. Well, the Lexus, we have LS, that's also a V8. In fact, it's a 4.3 liter V8. This is 4.2 liter V8. Small pistons, and many of them, 8 of them. And the acceleration here, I'm going to move my seat a little bit forward so I can reach the gas pedal better. And look at that, it just has that, and I did not push it all the way down, I just stepped on it a little bit, and it just roars, like, it says, I have the power, I have the torque.
And we just had to brake quickly because someone was stopping traffic to let someone out, and it brakes very smooth.
Oh yeah, it absolutely does. And again, these are back roads, we're not gonna go crazy, but it's also a bumpy road, And you can tell you're driving a torquey and powerful V8. You don't have to push it hard. It's just rewarding to be in this vehicle. So yeah, that's a bumpy road kind of where we are. There aren't many bumpy roads, but this is like, I'm gonna go over a bumpy section of the bumpy road. And it's so tight because the previous owner just had massive amount of suspension work done, brakes on the vehicle. It has exceptionally good tires. And so now that we covered the bumps, we're gonna go back on the road and take a little bit more of the drive. The dashboard has a couple of small cracks. Again, nothing to be super excited about. It's right there.
Yeah, I'd covered, really the only imperfections were these cracks
Yep.
on both sides and a couple pixels
Yep.
in the little infotainment, or the little screen there, but you can still make out the time.
Well, the odometer, speedometer, that all is good. Depending on the temperature, you may have more or less pixels.
Yeah.
So you can definitely exercise your mind to see where, like right now, it says 5 Fahrenheit. So we know it's not 5. So we have to exercise just a little bit. And like, is it what, 55? I know it isn't.
You can
65?
yeah, it's a game for you and your family.
Yeah, certainly not 85. So I guess it's probably around 75. What do you think?
I think that's accurate.
Yeah. So we can pick up a little bit of speed. Oh, this is unbelievably fun. This is actually very, very nice, very smooth. I turned on the wiper, even though we don't need the wiper, but it does have a single wiper mechanism. So not only it goes side to side, but as it reaches the point and it points to the corner, it extends about 3 inches, so it kind of reaches out for those corners. It's almost fun to watch. So that's a cool thing, and it's a very, very quiet wiper. You almost, even when it's raining hard, you just don't hear it much. The heated seats will never break down because it doesn't have any. The car started its life in the areas where the heated seats was not important. So normally there would be heated seat switches right there, but they're not there. Did we talk about this function?
I do not think so.
Okay, so that's a cool function. So that's actually an independent charcoal filtration system. So it's, oops, not that one, this one. So this one, when this little light is on, the air that enters the cabin is diverted and it goes through the charcoal filter for complete elimination of any smell. We're actually going to take a highway because the highway performance of this vehicle is compelling and very, very, very important. The handling is unbelievable. We are in the sport mode. There's a winter mode. Sport mode is just how transmission shifts. It downshifts a little quicker and it upshifts a little later. And then in the winter mode, that is a slightly different performance. But back to this filter. So let's say you're in a tunnel where you just know those gas fumes are not healthy for you or your passenger, you would turn that on. And look at how smooth this is. We're not going to show the speedometer. We're not going to say, because we're on YouTube and everybody's watching, including the government. So
we're with the flow of traffic.
Yes.
There's cars running away from us.
And they're not driving at 55 miles an hour.
No.
No.
It is butter smooth in here.
This is insane. I wish I could officially state the speed we're going. And look at the steering wheel. Look at the steering wheel. There is not a car on this road. I've driven hundreds of cars on this road. It is dead on center. And this is a curved road. I usually have to, always you have to correct. This thing is the solidest driving automobile on this section of the road, and I've driven hundreds of cars. Wow. So at this speed that we cannot pronounce, if I step on the gas pedal, it just picked up another 15, 20 miles an hour, like we were in first gear. So this is an amazing car, amazing performance car. It's a sleeper. You can comfortably fit 5 people. I was going to say 4 very comfortable, but you can comfortably fit 5 people. And you can take long trips because this is a very comfortable car to be in. So with this filter, now that you know you're breathing, almost like having a gas mask for you and your passenger for the entire cabin. So to save and extend the life of the charcoal filter, if you left it on, it will turn itself off after a certain amount of time. I forget if it is 10, 15, or 20 minutes, but at some point it will turn itself off. And if you still need it, you can turn it on. Not only it works for carbon monoxide or any other things, but even if you're going through the area, agricultural area, and there are some smells that are less than pleasant, you can turn that on.
Yeah. Yeah, like if we were going to stay on the highway and go in that stop and go traffic,
Yeah.
that'd be perfect. Because you definitely start smelling the fumes of other vehicles
Yeah.
when you're in that stop and go.
The brake's
Traffic.
unbelievable. I just had to slow down. And this car has amazing handling qualities. I'm not pushing it, even though I know the tires are very good on this car and they will stick to the road. We warmed them up a little bit, so we can definitely have fun. But having a passenger with the camera,
The car is surprisingly flat when it
yeah,
handles.
look at this. This is an unbelievable automobile. And when you punch it, it goes. It does. Yeah. So the only problem with these cars that have this extraordinary power is other cars, because you're always going to have cars on the way. You wouldn't be able to really explore.
Yeah, we had to brake
Yeah,
because of catching up.
we did. I'm looking forward to blending in with traffic. It says one way, just for those people that question that. And look at that downshift. This is unbelievable. Oh, this reminds me of that C43 V8, little 4.3 liter V8 that AMG fine-tuned and put in little C-Class. Those cars were absolutely amazing. This is very similar to that for a lot less money and a lot more room in the cabin, because the C-Class is a C-Class and E-Class is an E-Class, because E-Class is one step closer to the S-Class. This has an S-Class drivetrain because S420 of the previous years had the same engine. So this has S-Class drivetrain in the E-Class body. That is definitely an awesome combination. And a 5-speed transmission. So this is this is already 1997. So this is the adaptive shift. It is like we're driving a little different now, like we would downshift, you see, and then pick up some speed, we back off. So the transmission computer is learning my driving habits for now. So the next person getting in, it's gonna shift a little more aggressive because how I just drove the car, but very quickly, within minutes, it's going to adjust to that person's driving style. It's a very, very cool feature, adaptive shifting. In 1997. So we have that, and again, I wish anyone that considers this vehicle to purchase this vehicle was able to drive it, and I'm just trying to explain and cover it in this video that it is an unbelievable experience. It is super smooth. It is completely unexpected of the vehicle in this budget, this age, and for a lot of vehicles, 133,000 miles, it would be kind of like, okay, I've had good use out of the car, but this is still, you can go another 133,000 miles with proper maintenance, and it would still drive this very nice and very good. And with this car, the amount of improvements that were recently made, they definitely give another layer of comfort for the next owner, because you wouldn't have to do the ball joints. You wouldn't have to do suspension components that were just replaced. Wheel bearings and a number of other things. I still can't believe just everything about this car. Touching the brake pedal, cornering. I'm going to go a little more aggressive. And the seats are, by the way, they hold your body very, very nice. And it was effortless. It was just unbelievable. So by the way, if you're watching this video, don't forget to subscribe. Let us know which videos you like the best by simply clicking that like button. It is very important for us if you subscribe, and it's important for you too, because you'd be notified when we post another exciting video.
So now we're just about back to
Yeah.
AlphaCars.
Yeah,
And
so
I
we-
guess we'll see everyone once we've got it on the lift.
Yeah. We will be pulling in a few minutes, and if the lift is available, we're just going to go right on it. It's still going to be at full operating temperature, so we're going to be able to check a few things, look at the transmission. We're going to look at the final drive, also known as a differential, and we're going to look, of course, at the engine itself from the bottom. We check out suspension, so it's definitely going to be an exciting footage.
And after all that driving and accelerations, the temperature is dead solid.
Yeah.
So
We should also mention, as an area of improvement for this vehicle, we're actually going to do this now before we pull this in. This has a very ingenious way of driving air conditioning cooling fans. So there are two fans. You may not even need two fans, but it has two fans. One of them is driven by an electric motor, and the other fan actually is driven by a small belt that goes from one fan to the other fan. And this would be a very nice little project to replace that belt, because on this car it is missing, and it's still, one fan works awesome. But if you were somewhere in Sahara or in Texas, and if you really want the ultimate performance from your air conditioning, there should be the second fan running, and for that you need that belt. So right now it doesn't have that belt. We can do non-stop footage.
yeah.
Yeah, one-touch window operations. That was good. It has a little bit of squeak, just not a big deal, but it has a tiny little squeak on the way up or down. And then the back window is nice, and it goes all the way down. Go and find that nowadays. Yeah. Yeah, nice and fast. And this window we already checked, it's good. If you look at the color, it actually looks pretty good. But under the sunlight, if there is a direct sun, you can see some color mismatch between front and back door. But otherwise, the paint is in awesome condition. So we're going to the underbody inspection of the E420 W210 chassis, the legendary Mercedes-Benz E-Class. And we're going to start from the underbody. We're going to start from, let's start from this muffler.
Look how clean that is.
Yeah, it actually is a new muffler, because I would have to assume it's a new muffler, because look at this. Here's a Mercedes part number, and it goes all the way down. Well, at some point it was new muffler, and I think it was replaced at some point, unless it's just how it held up.
Maybe they detailed their mufflers regularly.
We have an awesome muffler on this car. There are a lot of awesome things on this car. Check out this Goodyear tire, and this is the Weather Ready. Weather Ready. It's definitely a very good tire, very quiet tire. I'm actually surprised how quiet it is for this grippy tread.
Yeah.
So that's a good tire.
There was
to
no
recommend.
tire noise on the highway.
Yes. And then, as usual, there's a very solid underbody coating on all sheet metal parts. And it is very, very good weather resistant undercoating, but still New England weather and just the time in general, 1997, 2024, quite a few years, they take their toll on the vehicles in general, but certainly underbody. So we're going to show you some surface rust. The good news about this vehicle, there are no holes, no rust through But there are going to be areas we're going to go through in great detail where there is surface rust. But the metal is nice and strong, you can see that. And there are different ways of treating it. You can certainly, and I can show you with a fluid film product, it could be a rather simple treatment and something you would maintain. Or if you really want to go super thorough, you would need to completely like clean stuff off and then, you know, so. But the good news is that the metal is still there. This is just surface rust. And a lot of areas we expose that to make sure it was not rusted through. Like right here, you can see that metal is still there. So no welding needs to be done. It's just surface rust that is there on the surface. And you can see it up here too. It would be great if this car didn't have any rust, if it was a California car, but this is not the case. And if that was the case, it wouldn't be under $10,000. So let's check this out. There are a couple of spots here throughout this. This is all surface, nothing structural. Let's keep going.
Yeah, a lot of this, talking about the treatment, if you just scuffed it and put fluid film,
yeah,
it really would never get worse.
Yeah, in fact.
It would stay the same.
So with fluid film, which I just picked up here from the shop, it's very easy. But the reason we didn't apply it, you would say, well, if it's easy, why didn't you do it? Because if we do apply fluid film, which is an oily substance, and it works phenomenal, but at that point, it would have to be fluid film moving forward. You would have to stay on top of it and maintain it. But if someone wants to really scrape all this rust, treat it chemically, put primer, and put paint on it, and then put undercoating, that is an option that is available now. But once you put fluid film, that would not be an available option. And fluid film is a great option for this vehicle for cost-efficient management moving forward. You can definitely use that. And but I'll show you how this works. We're going to grab an area that's probably not going to be an issue, depending. So if you take this, you would just spray that on. See? So that's all set. You can just do that. Not only it makes it look pretty, right? But it just now soaks into rust. It stops access for oxygen and it stops rust. That's how it works. So I'm going to put that back here. So we showed you how fluid film works. And basically, that's going to be one approach that one can take to manage this vehicle moving forward. And all you need to do is go back and look at it probably a couple times a year, maybe 3-4 times a year, and depending where the vehicle is driven. So you can see how that works, and it's now becoming kind of like part of that surface. So, but otherwise, this vehicle is very solid, very impressive. These are floorboards. They don't have a speckle of rust. Let's keep going. We're gonna enter more in the middle of the vehicle, so you can see these are floorboard in great condition. Some surface rust here that also can be treated with fluid film, or can be done, you know, with more significant approach. Here are the new ball joints. You can see right there. That's why you can see the bushings in great condition, and the steering rack is bone dry. The rear main seal is bone dry. The transmission, this drivetrain is absolutely unbelievable. And look at this awesome engine block, aluminum engine block. Head gaskets are nice and dry. The back of the heads are nice and dry. Go and find modern vehicles that are going to be this dry at 133,000 miles. Another new ball joint.
And it had new shocks
Yeah.
at some point recently, too.
It
in the
had
last
new
few
shocks,
years.
yeah.
Yeah, like on the highway, the bigger bumps at the high speed, there was no bounce.
Absolutely.
It was very, very dampened.
And we already tapped on the catalytic converters. They're nice and solid. There's no rattles in them. They're very, very good. So, and then we are going to, it is slippery because it's, we know air conditioning works, and because it works and it's muggy, we get that condensation that drips down. So the underside, you can see it's not like crashed or anything. It's actually in pretty good condition. All the hardware is there, original screws and everything. So the underbody is actually very, very good and very impressive. Before we lower the vehicle all the way, we're going to take a look around the vehicle on this level, because usually at different levels you can see different things. So what do we see here? We see good shiny paint, But different panels, you can see they were painted at different times. We know these have a little bit of color difference, but keep in mind this was done years ago. We also see there's a little bit of kind of like I would call it a rough body work. So it was just like someone did body work here, but they didn't care to really send things here, so there's a little bit of roughness there. Again, this, but you know what we should show is the bottom sides of doors, where there was one on the front that you could see some touch up, but others look good. That's this one. We also looking at this edge. There's no rust. There's no like anything loose. We can see some body filler here. This is all good. We're not seeing any rust inside there. That's all good. We continue the same way, and it's all good. No rust on that back panel. Yeah, you can definitely see this one had some body work, and the body line kind of like, you know,
a little dip.
Yes,
a little wave.
There's a little dip, but again, if this was done a month ago, I would be concerned how long would it last. But this was done years ago. This was many years ago, and it's still holding up. There's no cracking, no flaking. So this edge is nice and thin. There's no body filler there, so that's all good. And yeah, this edge is actually nice and smooth here. So the bottoms of the doors of this door is in reasonable condition. The gaskets are nice and tight and soft. And this door here, again, the bottom edge looks good. Things look good here. You can see a little bit of overspray on this door right there. But again, think of it that it was, if it lasted this long, up here, it's going to be fine. And all of these things, we could certainly address them, and often we do, but this car is a sweet buy for under $10,000, and our goal was to leave a little bit of profit for the dealership and be able to offer the car under $10,000, a nice big German sedan with V8 that still has a lot of use for the next owner. Here is this little thing. So these are the fans I was telling you about. So if you look at this, this has a big hub and this has a tiny hub right there. So this is the one that has an electric motor that runs it, and this fan usually is fine, plenty for most driving conditions. But for those excessive, there is a belt that goes inside that drives this fan off of this. So usually when you spin this, that should spin. We know it needs a belt. So we haven't done it, but that is something that certainly can be and should be done at some point. When we look inside the bay, things are nice and tight. There are no oil leaks, major or minor. Everything is nice and dry. The belt is in great condition. If we look at this area, everything looks nice and dry. If we look at areas where you could commonly see a lot of rust, this has a little bit of rust, like just surface stuff. I'm actually just kind of like scraping that off, so that can be addressed. And when I say can be addressed, it's not included in the price. You can see a little bit of, again, right there. Just, can we see that?
Now we can.
Yeah. So again, very small areas, but if they're not caught in time, it will turn into a much bigger deal. So that's why we're disclosing and showing all this. And let's show a little bit more in this way.
Sure.
We can go in like this area right here.
Yep, I can see it.
Yeah, where tip of the screwdriver, you can see a little bit of surface rust. So it's very important to address them now. You don't have to. You can still get probably a few years out of the car, but if you really wanted to keep it and keep it nice for a long time, this should be addressed. I think that's pretty much it. I know you mentioned in the video the sound insulation. It's all good. So we had a lot of fun driving this car and showing it to you. So thank you for watching the video. Consider sharing and subscribing. And before we part, I just want to point out there are a couple of areas here. I just noticed that they're barely noticeable, but there is this molding, and there's a little bit of clear coat issue here on the molding, and a very similar clear coat issue on this, what we call A pillar. So thanks for watching, and make sure you check out the listing for the vehicle. We have awesome images, and make sure you read through the description. On the bottom, we talk about other services we offer, because not only we sell cars locally, a lot of our customers bought multiple cars with us from us over the years, and unfortunately we never met them, but they love our cars because we offer transportation services. So make sure you get to that point, read about that, and thanks for watching as always.